Hello and welcome back to 3D Drawing for Model Railway. In the last of these lessons, before we start mirroring this or copying this across, I'm going to look at just adding a couple of extra details in. So first of all, we've got the wagon label here. I'm just going to draw a simple little rectangle for that and extrude that into the bodywork here. So if we look at its position, it's just before this last of the pillars here that we've drawn. So we can draw a sketch onto this surface. And it's just a little rectangle. It's probably going to do 1mm by the height which it is. And just so that it's got some relief, I'm just going to come slightly beyond, slightly below the edge of the sole bar here. This is going to give us that. I might actually go back to 0.3. Just gives it a little bit more. Okay, it's only representative, and you're not really going to notice it when it's down there. Okay, the next thing that I'm looking at, and I've noticed that we can copy over, if we look at the handbrake here and the arm that you use for locking it down, on these two wagons, which are views from either side of the wagon, you can see obviously the hanger here for the handbrake is this position, and then on this one it's on that position. But the handbrake and this arm are in the same position relative on both sides, so we can draw the handbrake arm here and this locking arm that comes down, and then that will copy across between the two wagons. Okay, I've swapped here to this view so that we can see the angle that we've got within the arm here. So it starts off with the locking pins on the outside of the sole bar coming down, and then the handbrake angle sweeps in and looks like it's inside the sole bar. Okay, so if we start drawing on this, I don't think it's on the canvas at all. Okay. So we're going to draw the locking arm that comes down to start with. So if we look at its position here, let's try and find a nice side-on view. Its position here comes down relative to this post, which is this one here. So we're going to create a sketch on this bottom surface of the sole bar. I'm just going to be using 2-point rectangle. I'm going to come down this position here. Okay, so what we're going to look for now is how high it is. So it comes up about halfway on the sole bar and comes down level with the bottom of the axle box. So height wise there, I'm relatively happy with that. So we'll just go 0.5. And then this bottom edge, I'm going to drag this up to roughly bottom of the axle box here. Define its width. I'm going to go for 0.5mm and define the length 4.15mm, and it wants to be defined from there to there, so 10.2. Okay, so I'm then going to extrude this back in to the sole bar there and tell it to join, because I need to have that strength within there. I'm also going to actually, let's do two-sided. I'm going to drag out slightly. I'm going to come forwards by minus 0.3mm. Actually, I might go 0.5 actually. I know that's going to make it look quite thick, but the handbrake's going to come down. It's got to join within there on the outside, and we also want the going back to the end of the W1 to give it the strength. And realistically, it would just hang on this bottom half of the sole bar, but that's not going to give it any strength. And I guarantee that it will just snap off because it's so small. So there's no point doing that. You might as well come all the way back like that. Okay, so now we're going to draw the handbrake on. So it's got to be in this position because this is going to be handbrake off. If the handle was down at any point, it should be the handbrake on. So it's going to start off level with the top of the bottom part of the sole bar and then run downwards at an angle. So to create that, what we're going to do is do an offset plane. No, we're not. We're going to do a plane at an angle to start with. from this edge here on the top. Yeah, the one that goes back into the wagon. Okay. And the reason I'm using that edge is you've got to have an edge to be able to select the angle. Okay. I'm going to go for about 7.5 degrees, I think. And then I'm going to create an offset from that coming down. And what I'm looking for is where's this going to be at roughly the midpoint. So that's probably too far of an angle. I'm just going to change this angle slightly. I'm going to go for, let's try 6 degrees. So following that down, there's the midpoint of your wagon. That's going to be about this sort of position, which is level with the top of the axle boxes. So we're looking at that. Yeah, level with the top of the axle. So that's roughly where I'm going to go for. Okay, so next thing I'm going to be doing is drawing on this plane here. Okay, so let's create this sketch on plane 9. Turn plane 8 off. I'll slice so we can see through. Use the top view. We'll rotate that round. Okay, let's draw a line across here. It's 0.5 millimeters. Okay, so the length of that is going to come down to just after the the axle here. So if we bring that line back there, it'll be the same, draw that line, same position there. Find the length, 1.9. You can use that horizontal vertical constraint to snap them two to the same. Okay, so from that point onwards, it goes diagonally back inside the underneath the sole bar here. So midpoint of the wagon's about, so we're going to snap to there. And then we're going to do a short line to straight there. So 0.5 wide. That should be 90 degrees. I think I want, what's happened here? That's not right there. Okay, you should be coincidence. That line to that point. So you can't move diagonally. Okay, you should be 90 degrees. Right, what's going on with you? Don't like you. Let's delete that line. Let's start again. Okay, I'm going to find the length of this angled bit. I didn't want it diagonal like that. It needs to match. Like that. I want that 11 millimeters. I think I want this end one 2 millimeters. So what we've got there, it's parallel to the sole bar, angles in, and then this last bit is parallel to the sole bar as well. Okay, so if we match this back up, like that. So this is 0.5 thick all the way around. What does it need to define? I think it's the angle. Let's get rid of that angle there. I didn't like that. That one's already constrained. What's missing? I know. Defining that point to that point in that direction. There you go. So if we now select that profile and extrude. Now I know the handle comes out beyond here, but it's at a different angle. 0.5 thick. I want it to join. Okay, so this looks like halfway here, which yeah, it looks like that. And then I've got to draw this last bit of the handle coming out the end here. So if we draw a sketch on there, and I'm going to do a rectangle that's 0.5 by 0.5, like that one. I want that corner. It won't. So we went to measure that, so that's 0.55. So if we then define there to there, height-wise, that should be 0.55, and then when we extrude this upwards, that should then come nice and straight along the side of the wagon. That's joined. Okay, so there we've got our handbrake shape, comes down at an angle and also angled in side the sole bar there. Okay, we might have to come back and change that angle depending on how far inside we want it, but we'll have a look once we've copied this across. Okay, so now we've got the handbrake drawn on, we're going to now copy this half of the wagon over. So we're going to step up, go and change that, edit that feature, and we're going to change that to join. Okay, so now I'm going to copy the body over, and if we do a paste, if we look from top down, we can rotate this through 180 degrees, and then we can move it across over here out of the way, and then we're going to use the point-to-point method to snap that corner into that corner so that two halves are matching up. And then when we click on OK, they'll join and become one. Sorry, we'll then have to join them and become one body. Click on OK, so we've now got a completed wagon. Obviously, we've got some more details about that. We've got a whole looking wagon there. Just for to highlight, we've got a choice that we need to make. We can either do the wagon with these kickboards around the bottom, or there's a version without. It's the same wagons, it's just that at some point during 91 it looks like they had these kickboards added in. So it's completely your choice what you want to do. If you want to do it, obviously you can just continue from where we are at the moment without it. If you did want them in there, just roll the history back to before the copy feature that we did, and then we're just going to draw the kick plates on the back of these uprights. So if we select the back face of these uprights, I'm just going to draw a rectangle. It will snap to the bottom corner and we'll come all the way across. I think they're probably going to be about 6 inches, maybe a little bit more higher. No, probably a bit more than that, probably close to 8 to 10 inches. I reckon they're going to be about 8 inches. So I'm going to go for a height of 1.2 millimeters. Okay, and define the length so it goes all the way along there. And then we can just select all of these inner profiles here. Again. And we're going to extrude these, give them a thickness of say 0.4 millimeters, so not particularly thick. Okay, and then draw again on this face. Same rectangle is going to start in the corner. This time I'm going to give it a thickness of 0.4 there, height 1.2, which is what we're after. And then if we extrude that to the front face there, go to joint, and then again drawing on this surface here. the way along. Height is 1.2. That should be snapped to that corner. And extrude 0.4 millimeters. Make sure it's joining. I need to check what's happened there. Let's just go back in this history. I bet it's something here. Yes. Tell that to join. So that created as a new body rather than a join there. Do the same on the end here with the sideboard. Start in the corner, come up. It's 0.4 thick and it's 1.2 high. Select that profile and extrude to that inner face. Click join. And click on OK. Okay, so now we skip back through the history to the very end. We've now got the kickboard that goes around the outside. Quite a simple little addition. It gives you that variance between the two wagons. If you wanted to have, what you could do is go a little bit more with a detail and how high is that? 0.5. You could draw in on each of these panels. It's probably a good idea to do this actually. Let's just draw a small rectangle on here. Between the panels at 0.2 thick. That to that edge. That's because it's a bit of a constraint there. Go with that. To that edge as 0.5. And then extrude this into the wagon by -0.2. I'll just give it that appearance of being a separate board. Do the same on here. Use the horizontal vertical constraints to constrain that to that. And then we can extrude that inner profile. A little bit laborious doing this, but it will improve the look of the wagon slightly. Because you will end up with, as I say, what looks like panelled rather than just a smooth flush side. Okay, so for the last on this one. Okay, so that's the ones down the side, and you've got the end one to do here. So we use the same height, it'd be 0.5. vertically constrain that with that, and then see if I can horizontally constrain around the corner. Jumping mouse, that. Won't let me. That's not an issue though, because what we can do is just define there to there, which is 0.5 millimeters, and then extrude this minus 0.2. Okay, and then one more to do on the other end. Again, vertically constrain that to that corner. Define the height from there to there. And then extrude minus 0.2. Okay, so that's going to give us our wood step effect. Maybe this needs to be a little bit taller. If you wanted to, you could. You just obviously have to select the top edge. The easiest way to do it here. Select this top edge. It's going to make mine slightly a bit smaller. You extrude that up by 0.2. And do the same on this one. Okay, that gives that just that slightly taller effect. Okay, jump to the end. That will then go all the way around the wagon. Nice and simple to get to this stage. So obviously if you wanted to not have these, you would then just have to go into each of these sections and hide them basically. So you could say white one. This one. So if you could suppress the feature. And then that would cause it to disappear. So that's this one here disappeared. Yeah, you just go around and suppress or unsuppress them. Okay, so one thing I'm going to check before we go any further, do we have enough room across the wagon to get the wheel set in? So if we just do inspect, we can inspect from that edge there to the other side. We need about 13 millimeters. So 13.2, so that's pretty much perfect. You know, I'd be happy with that. Okay, so what we can now potentially think about doing is, before we go much further, is adding in the recesses for the rule sets. If we just come back to cancel that, I'm going to roll back to that history marker there. We better put the recess in here for the wheel set. So I'm just going to create a sketch on this inner surface here and do a rectangle that take a nice chunk out of the wagon there and extrude that. Like that. Okay, one thing we could do to check it, we just jump back through the history now. I'll then put obviously that all the way in. One thing that we could do is recreate an offset plane from that. Just reset, and we could create a dummy wheel in here to make sure we've got enough room. So if we just reset at 0.5 millimeters, create a sketch onto that plane, slice through the wagon, project that circle, and create a circle here that's going to be wheels are 6.1. So if we do 6.2, and then excuse me, extrude those. Okay, so obviously it doesn't look like a wheel, but the fact that it's the same size is what I'm looking for here. So you can see at the top here, we've got plenty of room here for the wheel to rotate and not actually cause an issue there. Okay, so I'm just going to rename that and that can sit in there, and we can just use that to check all our clearances there. That's a nice little tip there that would be handy to make sure you've got enough room. I'm going to leave this episode here for the moment, and then we'll come back and pick up drawing more details in future episodes. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Please like and subscribe the video.